Welcome to the Anxiety at Work podcast. I'm Chester Elton, and this is my co-author and dear friend, Adrian Gostick.
We hope that the time you're going to spend with us is going to help remove the stigma of anxiety and mental health in the workplace and your personal life. With experts in the world of work and life, we want to give you ideas and, most importantly, tools to deal with anxiety in our world.
And a special shout out to our sponsor, Life Guides. You know, they offer a community of trained and certified guides who provide guidance in over 400 topics of personal growth, lifelong learning, and life challenges. They're a strategic people offering by leading employers across all industries, providing employees with experienced and empathetic support across the broadest range of everyday life events. You know, Life Guide's mission is to impact over 1 billion people in the next 15 years. And they're modernizing human support and human connection, which is foundational to well-being and happiness. And you can get 2 months free access for your team today with the code 2422 at checkout. Just a great deal. Well, our guest today is the amazing Diamond Dallas Page. We met him recently. We've become good friends. He has got more energy than you can imagine. He is a fitness guru who founded DDP Yoga. He's an author. He's an actor. And you probably know him as the former wrestling heavyweight champion of the world. He's also been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Since retiring from wrestling, he's changed the lives of literally hundreds of thousands of people. You can find his story on Amazon Prime on the movie Relentlessly. I've watched it. It's fabulous. And he's also the author of a wonderful book, Positively Unstoppable. Welcome to the show, DDP. We are delighted to have you here.
Yeah, pleasure to have me on, man. I'm excited to be here.
Well, again, thanks for joining us today. You're known to so many of us as the wrestler, but your career ended abruptly. Can you let our listeners know a little bit about you, how you got into wrestling, and of course that moment when you broke your back in the ring and how that changed everything for you?
Well, I didn't actually. I tried wrestling when I was 23. It didn't work out for me. And I later would go into it when I was 31 as a manager and a color commentator because I thought I was too old to be a wrestler. And it took me 3.5 years while I was running nightclubs to get to a spot to where I got noticed by Ted Turner's World Championship Wrestling. And they brought me in as a wrestler, as a manager and a color commentator. And it's funny because after about 5 months of being into my 1-year contract, they were like, listen, DDP, I had really long hair and I wore these crazy clothes and I had a lot of bling and I could talk and I had these diamond dolls. And they basically let me know that, they couldn't let me manage anymore because I was taking too much attention away from the wrestlers. And And the guy who told me was a guy named Magnum TA. And I was like, Magnum, are you telling me I'm too over the top for professional wrestling? And he kind of laughed, and he said, it's not your fault. What we should have done was give you a pair of tights and boots and see if you could do this. And at the time, I was 35 and a half. And he kind of laughed and he walked away because, that's impossible. By the time you figure it out, you'll be too old to do it. And they didn't really understand my work ethic. And I had 7 months left on my contract. And that's when I went down to a power plant where they would train young guys in their early 20s how to wrestle. And I went down there and they beat the hell out of me. I can't tell you how many times my body hit that mat, in that cold, dungeon. It was like a big warehouse. It was freezing. I can't tell you how many times my body hit that mat at 35 and a half years old. And I thought to myself, man, this fake shit hurts like hell. And the one thing that everybody will agree with, whether they like professional wrestling or not, you can't fake gravity.
Right.
You really beat your body up. And I worked at a different level, and I was lucky enough to have mentors like Dusty Rhodes and Jake the Snake Roberts, who took me under their wing because they saw how passionate I was and how hard I was working, that they kind of guided me. And I was very lucky. My career took off when I was 40, and that was in 1996. Wow. 1997, from 1996 to 2001, wrestling between the WWF, now the WWE, because they own both, but the WWF and the WCW, we controlled the top spots on cable networks. WWE might have been number one. One week we were number two. Our second show was number three, and theirs was number four. Like, it was crazy, the viewership. And when my career exploded in '96, going into 1997 and '98, I was working 275 days minimum a year just wrestling. Forget, the Tonight Show, Hollywood Squares, whatever show I might do. It was a feverish pitch. And when you're hot, you got to ride that tsunami. And I was riding it at a different level. And then I just finally signed a multi-million-dollar deal going into 1999. And I ruptured my L4 and L5 in my low back so severely that I had 3 spine specialists tell me I was never going to wrestle again. And that was pretty depressing at the time. I'm never the kind of person that you're going to tell me what my future is. I'll tell you what my future is, because you don't really know me, and you don't know my work ethic, and you don't know how I'm going to keep trying things to figure out. I'm the kind of person that never gives up. And I'm the guy who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga the first 42 years of my life.
Well, Diamond, I want to talk to you about that, because, the specialist said you'll never wrestle again. You'll be lucky to walk again. And then you started getting into this yoga, and you credit your wife for that. And I'll never forget, when we were talking earlier, you said, isn't yoga for chicks in tights or something like that? And you came back and
right.
you became the world champion after you broke your back, which is unbelievable.
It was incredible. It was really an amazing journey, because I didn't just do yoga. Yoga really is what enlightened me, and that's the base of what DDP yoga is. But I've also had shoulder surgeries on both shoulders and both knees, and I learned how to rehab them both back. And I learned God's kind of given me a thing where I'm kind of gifted in breaking up scar tissue, which helps alleviate pain and create strength, and of course mobility. And what I did was I mixed the rehab with the yoga. Then I threw in old school calisthenics, something we all grew up with, but I had to do them with a slow burn movement. So if I was doing a plank and just lowering in the cobra and going into down dog, I would lower for 3, hold 3 inches off the ground for 3, then push up 3, 2, 1. Then I'd lower for 3, and then I'd hold for 3. Then I'd go to cobra to down dog, because I couldn't lift weights back then, because I didn't want to injure myself further. And I'm pretty good at parenting myself. So what I did is I threw these old school calisthenics in with a slow burn movement. And then I threw in something that was developed years ago, and all it is time under tension. It's engaging and flexing muscles as you move, as if you had weight, but there are no weight. Mm-hmm. And what I figured out by complete accident was every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart has to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. And what that does is it elevates your heart rate. So by accident, I created DDP Yoga, which today is better known as DDPY, mainly because I want people to stop calling it just yoga, because it's not. And what I created was a kick-ass cardiovascular workout that would dramatically increase flexibility, strengthen your core at a whole different level. And here's the most important thing: minimal joint impact. So there's no impact on your body as you're strengthening your body. In less than 3 months, I was back in the ring. And what looked like it was the worst thing that ever happened to me turned out to be the best thing ever happened to me.
Well, talk a little bit about your mental health as you went through that. You said it was kind of a depressing time, but you turned it around. So tell us how you keep your mental health strong. This is our podcast is Anxiety at Work. So how do you get through something like that?
First you have to breathe. Like breathing. If you ask me what is the most important, I'll be 66 in April. If you ask me what the most important thing I've ever learned is how to breathe. And in my program, I have you breathing in for 3, and out for 3. And at some point I say deep breath, and then you breathe out for 5, then you breathe out for 10. Before I ever go to a set to do a show or anything speaking in front of 20,000 people, I'm breathing in and out for 20. Like, breath is everything. And then once you understand that, what I really like, everybody goes down. Everybody gets depressed. My buddy, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, Trump, Obama, Oprah, Tom Brady, they all go down. They all get depressed. They just don't stay there. That's the key. Like, take your depression, own it, and then let it go. It's kind of like hate or anger. Holding hate or anger with someone is like swallowing poison and expecting them to die. Whenever you hold on to stuff that's not healthy for you, especially when it comes to mental health, it destroys everything. Because I don't think there's a bigger killer than stress. So you've got to let it go. And what's going to help you with that is breathing.
Excellent. It's really interesting. I watched the movie Relentless on Amazon Prime. And by the way, if you want to spend 60 minutes and just get inspired, just click on that. If you're a Prime, it's free. And you tell these amazing stories. And the one story that really stuck with me was your massage therapist, where she comes in and she's Terry Lang is her name, if I recall.
Yes.
And she was worried about turning 50 or something like that. And you said, hey, do this mental vision thing. And I want you to walk us through that, because it's really interesting when you look at the before and after pictures of Terry. I mean, she looks way better 10 years later than she does when she was your therapist. And it was all because you coached her up about getting her over that anxiety, that worry, that, hey, I'm on the downside now. And you said, no, think about this. And then, of course, I love when you were coaching her up at the end, you said, have you got it? Bang. So walk us through that visualization that was so impactful for her.
Well, again, I'm getting massaged at the time. And before I'd walked in there, I had noticed Terry had lost some weight. And she was like, wow, I can't believe you noticed. I said, and I wasn't in the fitness world except for myself. I just noticed when someone starts to I think they're worthy. When I start to see someone start to take, ownership of trying to help themselves, I try to encourage them and give them that positive feedback. So she was like, I can't believe you noticed. I said, yeah, I kind of noticed that stuff. And, as she's massaging me, she says something about her 50th birthday. And she was 6 months from 50. Oh my God, she just got on a rant about it. And at some point she took a breath. And I said, are you finished? And she goes, oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to whine. I go, Terry, I don't care about that. I said, you gotta change. One of the things I said to her, I said, what have you been doing to help? And I turned her on to yoga by this time, and I didn't have any videos or anything, so I just showed her my dynamic resistance, of flexing and engaging, and had her put it into it, which helps her get in a fat-burning zone. But she was also getting on the treadmill, and she said, and I get on that treadmill, and I call it the terrible treadmill. And I said, why don't you change its name? She goes, what do you mean? And then I said, I got a friend of mine who was a wrestler. His name was Draws. He's 6'4", 265 pounds, looked like a Greek god. Then he got dropped on his head. Now he's a quadriplegic.
Ooh.
I said, do you know what he would do to be able to get on that treadmill? I said, that treadmill should be your buddy, the treadmill. That's what you should call him. Change the meaning of the word. And that's when she started. I never thought about it like that. And that's when she got on the rant about turning 50. And I said, Terry, I got to do something with you. I said, I got it. We got to get this out of your head, this whole how bad 50 is. You can't change age. All you can change is your mindset. I said, you got to, again, change the meaning of the word. I said, I want you to close your eyes. I go, you don't need your eyes open. You know my body, you're massaging me. I said, all I want you to do is I want you to get it out of your head. It's not going to be your 50th birthday. Get it out of your head. I said, it's going to be your 60th. What? I can't handle turning 50. You want me to turn 60? You know, she went up on her ass. And I said, I don't want you to turn anything. I just want you to believe it's real. You got that part down. And I want you to not say anything. I want you to go on this journey with me. I said, it's not going to be your 60th birthday. It's going to be your 70th. Oh, like the air just came out of her. And I go, okay, it's not your 70th. It's going to be your 80th birthday. And then I clicked off the years because I didn't want to kill her. You know, I said, it's going to be 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. I said, Terry, I want you to really think about this for a second. You're 85 years old. You've been lucky enough. God has blessed you to live to 85. I said, you know, you've had an unbelievable life. You've gotten to see your son grow up and your grandkids grow up. And now you're watching your great-grandkids grow up. I said, you and Warren, who you married at 19, are still married and in love, and you've been married for 66 years. I said, what an unbelievable life you've had. I said, so let me ask you a question. What would you do? What would you give up to go back 35 years in time and be 6 months from 50 again?
Wow.
And then I went, bang, open up your eyes. You got your wish.
I love it. Well, this, I think, ties into the subtitle of your book, which is The Art of Owning It. So I love that idea. So walk us through a little of that, and also maybe how you applied this, maybe when you worked with Jake the Snake Roberts to get up off the couch. And Chester's holding up your amazing book, Positively Unstoppable, right now. So walk us through that idea of owning it, and then maybe how you applied it with Jake.
You know, and God, the whole owning it part, you know, we all have the inner voice.
Yep.
And some people have the demon inner voice. And it's so easy, you know, like when I find out that someone's bipolar, there's two ways you can handle that. One is you fight that bipolar, you know, and it's all about, from the 5 people you hang out most with. I mean, you show me the 5 people you hang out most with, and I'll tell you where you're going, you know? And if you're hanging out with people who are junkies and alcoholics and drug addicts, that's who you're going to be no matter what. But when you hang out with people who have a positive mindset and people who are trying to do good and trying to help people, it's a different world. And so trying to control that inner voice, and it really comes down to the story that you tell yourself from A to Z, that who are you? You are whoever you decide you're going to be. And people, I don't believe I can do that. You're right. One of my favorite quotes is, if you say you can or you say you can't, you're right. Henry Ford he was the guy who's, you know, given that quote, but what the hell did he ever do? Right? You know, so it's a mindset. And like my other favorite quote that ties into all of this is, the repetitions of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. Now, you got to break that down. Like, the repetitions of affirmations can be really amazing for anyone, but they can also be really destructive. Because if you're telling yourself all the things you can't do and don't have time for, and I'm not worthy of this, and so many people who are listening to the show do not think they're worthy. They don't think that they deserve whatever it is, and they're wrong. When you decide you deserve it, and I have so many unbelievable transformations. If you go to ddpyoga.com and just pull up the transformation section and the stories and the videos, if you just Just put it up on YouTube. Put DDP Yoga up on YouTube and transformation. Your mind will be blown. And the people who actually come on, the repetitions of affirmations is one of the first things I teach them. You've got to have positive affirmations. When I went and spoke, when I got inducted in the Hall of Fame, in WWE's Hall of Fame, there's 20,000 people there.
Wow.
In attendance, millions watching. Now, they heard my speech. It's supposed to be 15 minutes. It's 27. When they heard it, they were like, don't go over 30. And they put me in the number one spot. Now, what could have been rolling through my head was, oh my God, what was I thinking writing this crazy long speech? What was I thinking? I've got my iPad here, but what if it goes out on me? What if I forget where I am? What if I get stumped? What if I freeze up? Like, that could have been my voice, but it wasn't. The only voice, and I started it a week out. This is going to be my greatest moment in professional wrestling. I'm going to blow everyone away. I'm going to make them laugh. I'm going to make them cry. I'm going to inspire them. Those are the only thoughts in my head that I will let in there, because the other ones want to creep in, but you're not going to get in. You can train your brain to own it the same way you train your body. And the more you train your body and the more confidence you build, the easier it is to train your brain to own it. Now, I just want to tell you one last thing. The repetitions of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. Now, when I saw that quote and I saw who said it, I went, oh my God, I know his affirmation. Like, what are the odds of that? Here's his affirmation. You tell me who said it. I am the greatest. I'm the greatest of all time. Who said that?
Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali.
Who else?
Yeah.
Who else? Who else would have the guts to say that? He's been saying it since he was a kid. And I tell you, I just watched Kevin Costner I watched him do Whitney Houston's. He was there to give one of the eulogies. It was unbelievable. And the other day I was getting a massage. And I just happened to look down on a video, and I saw Kevin Costner at a tribute to Muhammad Ali. He gave one of the Kevin Costner is a genius. And he is so real. It's so heartfelt. When you listen to his tribute to Ali, it was mind-blowing.
Well, I'm just going to jump in and say, look, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't download it, and when you're having a bad day, don't replay it, you're a knucklehead. This has been the most inspiring, 20 minutes so far of our podcast. Hey, listen, I know you've mentioned a couple of things, but where can people find more about you? Where would you send them? What's the best place to learn about your books and your acting and DDPY and everything else?
Pretty much everything's at ddpyoga.com. Or ddpy.com. But I literally tell everybody, guys, don't listen to a word I say about my program. Don't listen to a word I say. On Facebook, there is a page, and it's DDP Yoga, one word, because I spell it like that sometimes, so it's all together, but it's, normally two words. But on this Facebook page, because I originally wrote it as DDP Yoga, one word, there was one buddy of mine named Chris Gabriano who started a page for people who do the program to talk. And then it went to 100 people. And then it went to 1,000 people. And now there are over 70,000 people on that Facebook page. That's everyone from people who do the program. They all do the program, but people looking for knowledge, looking for inspiration, looking for hope. Because, people who do my program are from the greatest athletes in the world to people who can't get out of bed. And I've got, if you can't get out of bed, no one can ever say to me, oh man, your workouts are too hard. Wait a second. My workouts start off in bed. Then you sit in a chair. Then you stand up and you hold the chair to help give you balance. As we get older, first thing you lose, balance, which then falling. You fall, I'm still going to be 66. Once you start falling, you're in trouble. My workouts are for everyone, and they go all the way to cycle extreme stuff. But on my app, it's not just workouts, it's cooking shows, because people don't know what real food is. And you have to learn. When you come on my page, when you come on DDP Yoga, the app, the absolute first thing you're going to see is a thing I call the list. And this is the list. It's just a little blue tag that'll come up, and it'll pop up in a second. Come on, pop up. Come on.
So
What
this is
happened?
a podcast, so people can't see that, but we get the gist, right?
Oh, well, you guys can. There it is. The list.
The list, awesome.
The list should literally, the first question it asks you is, what's your why? Like, why are you here? Yeah. And then it goes into educating you from the resurrection of Jake the Snake to Relentless to movies, documentaries, Food Inc., Genetic Roulette, GMO, OMG. You need to educate yourself, because if you want to be able to be healthy going into your 60s, 70s, and 80s, who cares how long you live if you don't have a strong foundation? And your foundation comes from working out and eating properly, eating that's going to nourish your body.
Absolutely. And love that. And thanks for your passion that you're bringing to our show. DDP, so one last question then. This has been so inspirational and so amazing. What's next for you? Where are you going in the next 30 years of your amazing life and career here?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Adrian, because we literally start shooting on March 1st. A docu-series. You'll never hear me say reality show, because docu-series is how we film the resurrection of Jake the Snake, and of course Relentless. But it'll be a show, and I'm bringing 5 people into my home, not the one I live in now. The home that I filmed the resurrection of Jake the Snake in, I call it the accountability crib. I'm bringing 5 people into my home, and I call it Change or Die. And the people that are in there, they're pretty much all in that spot. Change or die. There's one young boy who's 21 years old. He's 486 pounds.
Ooh.
and he's 5'5".
Oh.
There's a vast group of different people who are coming in to my home for 3 months. The show will be entertaining because we're gonna have such different personalities, but it'll be challenging because we're gonna give them challenges. We're gonna work them. The only way you can get kicked off the show is you don't put the work in. You don't put the work in, I've got people waiting to come in and to be a part of it. And it's going to help people at home learn about the right way to take care of your body, physically and mentally. And we're going to make it, of course, entertaining as well. And it'll film like 3 months. And that's the big thing I'm working on right now. And actually on Netflix, if for any people who are into like the superhero culture, the whole superhero thing, there's a show that I filmed with a guy named Adi Shankar, and it's called The Guardians of Justice. And it's a very dark superhero show series.
That's not your brand. You are not the dark superhero. Come on, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, but you have to understand that a Nighthawk, who's the character, it's my show, so Nighthawk thinks he's right. And he thinks, like all great, characters, they think what they're doing is the right thing for everyone, and it's just fun to play that type of a character. And it's no one's ever seen anything like it. It has 8 different forms of 2D animation, 3D animation, and claymation worked into this graphic novel.
Don't tell us too much. You're gonna spoil the ending here.
Yes.
Stevie. Hey, listen, this has been beyond delightful. I do have one quick question. So if it's change or die, so if they actually die, is Kevin Costner going to come give the eulogies?
Oh my God! God forbid! God forbid anyone dies.
all kidding aside, listen, it has been beyond delightful to have you on the show. As I mentioned before, download this show, and if you're having a bad day, plug it in, because there's no way you can continue to have a bad day after you've spent 5 minutes with DDP. Yeah, the Diamond Cutter. Hey, we love having you on. Please follow him. Go to DDPY, go to DDPY Yoga, go to the Facebook, go to all the things he mentioned. It'll be all in the show notes. Can't tell you what an uplift this has been for me and Adrian to have you on the show. And I love, too, when you said, look, everybody gets down. They just don't stay there. And breathe, surround yourself with good people. And if one of those good people is DDP, you're blessed. You are blessed. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks,
Thank you
DDP.
so much.
Thank you, fellas. See ya.
Bang!
Love it.
So, Adrian, I mean, more energy than you should be allowed, really, in one human being. What were some of your takeaways?
Well, first off, I think people joining, an anxiety podcast saying, wait a minute, they've got a WWE former heavyweight champ of the world. Yes, we did. And you see now why. I mean, first off, he's gone through a lot of stuff in his life. He doesn't get into wrestling till he's in his 40s. But I just love what he started with. He says, look, everybody goes down. Yep. You work your hardest to not stay there. And sometimes we do. We like to live in our rut when we have anxiety or depression. And he says, you got to break out of it. I know it's hard, but you got to, first off, you got to believe that you can do it. Secondly, you got to work to do it and let go of the hate. He says, I love that he said, hate is poison. Let it go.
Let it go. Yeah. The thing that I love is the story that you tell yourself. That self-talk. We've heard so much about that. And I love that he was saying, look, I'm going to start wrestling at 35. Don't tell me I can't do it. He said, my whole life, people have underestimated me. They don't understand my work ethic. They don't understand that I can push through these things. The thing that I love most about Diamond Dallas Page, though, is how he reaches out to others. He's figured it out, and what drives him more than anything is to help and lift up other people. If you go watch his show on Prime, Relentless, the way he reaches out and literally saves the life of Jake the Snake Roberts, I mean, that's goodness, that's purpose, that gets you up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to do something remarkable today, and that's DDP.
It really is powerful, and helping the people understand. I mean, his massage therapist who's kind of working him, he finally says, "Okay, you done?" And sometimes a little hard love there, but he says, "Look, she's talking about how awful the treadmill is. It's the terrible treadmill." He says, "Well, why don't we call it my treadmill buddy?" And just sort of changing the way we think and changing the story, because we all tell a story to ourselves. And how can we create a more positive narrative about the wellness we're trying to create for ourselves?
I picked up on that too. I thought that was great. Instead of I have to go work out, I get to go work out. How lucky am I that I can still go work out? And this mental painting the mental picture. When his therapist said, "I'm going to turn 50," he said, "Hey, think about when you're 70 or 80. You're going to hit there. You're going to look back and say, hey, man, I wish I were 50 again. Make 50 fabulous." And I just love the way he brings that positive energy. I also had to laugh when he said, they're training us to be wrestlers in this big, cold, hangar, this big warehouse. He says, who knew that all this fake stuff would hurt so much?
Yeah. You look at those guys, and maybe there is some orchestration to things, but no, they are punishing each other, and
it still hurts like crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, I think the last thing I take away too is that he says, look, there's repetition of affirmations, but are we giving ourselves positive affirmations? How many of us think I'm not worthy, or I can't make it, or we talked about this before, that the great athletes, Pete Sampras would say, everything's okay. Everything's going to be fine.
All is well. Yeah, he'd say, all is well.
Yeah,
love it.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if I'm down by, a match or I'm up by, all is well. And there are mantras that we need to find ourselves that will help us get through tough times.
Yeah. So interesting. I was thinking about my mantra the other day, and I adjusted it. Having talking to Dallas Diamond Page, and what are you really interested in? What really motivates you? And I thought, my mantra has been for a long time, be kind, be grateful, and be of service. And I thought, I've got to add some more emotion to that. So my mantra now, and I'm going to share it with all of you so that you know what it is and you can hold me accountable, is be kind, be grateful, be of service. Go Devils.
Oh, I thought you were going to say bang.
Bang. Yeah, bang. Diamond Dallas Page. Bang. You know what? That would have been a better ending. Thanks for coaching me up on that. Hey, listen, we want to thank all the wonderful people that put this podcast together for us. Our amazing producer, Brent Klein, that takes out all the bloops and the blunders and makes us sound great. To Christy Lawrence, who helps find these amazing guests that we have so much fun with and hopefully are helping you deal with your anxiety. Look, if you like the podcast, like it, give us the 5 stars. If you don't like it, please just keep it to yourself. Download it, share it with your friends. Thank you so much for your time and being part of our podcast community. And then we've got another community that's pretty great too, right, Adrian?
We do. Go to WeThriveTogether.global, and it's really a nice, safe place to talk about anxiety and mental health at work. Where else can you talk about some of the struggles or leading people who might be struggling? Also, pick up a copy of our new book from Harper Business, Anxiety at Work. So we again, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you nothing but the best of mental health as you go through this coming week.
You bet. And another shout out to our wonderful sponsor, Life Guides. As you go and sign up for their service, they've got over 400 subjects with Life Guides, people that walk you through all the stresses of life, whether it's learning or your finances or your mental health. They want to impact over 1 billion people in the next 15 years. And for listening to our podcast, all you have to do is punch in 2422 and you'll get a couple of months of free service for you and your team. So yes, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the Diamond Dallas Page for bringing the energy, bringing the bang. And hopefully we'll see you in another week. Take care and be well.